Well, hello again. I'm Lynette Fay, and this is Back in Her. This is a podcast that profiles the women doing the building and the people who back them. And Back in Her is brought to you by AwakenHub and the Awaken Angels community, supporting women founders right across the island of Ireland. And it is supported by AIB, who are the patron partners. Today, we are counting down to the second She Ventures Summit, landing on Lusty Beg Island, Fermanagh, between the 7th to the 9th of June. And this is the Courage edition. And hundreds of people will descend on the island to learn from each other and to hear firsthand from the entrepreneurs who have built and exactly how they did it. So She Ventures doesn't happen by accident. It happens because people choose to bet on women founders when the data doesn't tell the full story just yet. And that takes a different kind of courage. So this episode, we hope, is for them or for you if you have a business idea and you haven't acted on it yet. So our first chat today, delighted to say that Olivia McVeigh is here, trying to describe what you do for a living. Makeup artist, content creator, founder, one of the most recognisable beauty and lifestyle voices on the island, from County Tyrone originally. Great to see you.
Thank you.
How
Thanks for
are
having
you?
me. Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Well, it's good to catch up because I haven't really got talking to you properly since She Ventures 1, which is 2 years ago. I have been just watching on as your career has just bloomed and you're everywhere. But I suppose for anybody, there is a chance that some people don't know who you are.
Oh, a big chance.
But no, just a small chance. And well, I suppose we do have to tell the story of that. You began to lose your hair at 17, balding by 21. Worked out that it was alopecia eventually, and then instead of hiding this, you decided to confront this kind of front and center. The wigs, the workshops, the honest talk, the chats on Instagram, social media. And I suppose honest because nobody else was saying this and having these conversations out loud. And I wondered, like, as a young girl, did you ever think, maybe 17, 18, when you were in the throes of working out what was happening with your hair, did you ever think that you'd make a career out of completely being you?
No, absolutely not. Because I don't think that I think anyone in that position never thinks that that's a possibility. And I think that when something like that is happening to you, the last thing you're thinking of is making a career out of it. You're just trying to survive it. And when you're 17 or 18, you think you have the world sorted anyway. So you don't really think about that. And I just wanted to go to university. I didn't want anyone to know that I was losing my hair. I didn't want anyone to know that that was happening. And I think it wasn't until things got really bad with it that I wanted to, I suppose, post about it and let people know what was going on. It was actually just my close kind of area that I wanted to tell. And then I think I sort of fell into the business aspect of it by accident. I didn't ever want to create a business from it or create income from it, but it sort of worked out that way. And I don't know if that's a bad thing. I think for me, it's just become like my purpose, which I love.
Yeah.
I love that what I've been able to create from it. So I think it just happens by accident, but nearly like, I think when I listen to people speak about their journeys, I think when you fall into things by accident, it works out so much better.
Well, also, I think it's more fulfilling when you do find purpose and it, what you're doing for a business aligns with purpose. Obviously, you're going to feel more satisfied and fulfilled from that. And I think 2 years ago, when we met each other in person for the first time at She Ventures in Lusty Beg Island, I think around that time you had just started to do your wig workshops. I think you were only dipping your toe in it. You'd done one or two so far. And I remember saying to you, Olivia, this has so much potential because of the vulnerability that women feel around losing their hair, changing their hair colour, changing their hairstyle, anything to do with your appearance brings on that vulnerability. And that was a massive problem that you were solving with your wig workshops.
I think especially in this country, there's no resources for anybody losing their hair, and it's a big grey area, especially when you go into your doctor and you say, like, I'm losing my hair, and they're kind of just like, well, there's so much else going on with the NHS that I feel like hair loss is just forgotten about. So for me, that's why I wanted to create the wig workshops, because you can get a wig anywhere. You can get one on Amazon, you can get one on the NHS, you can get one in like a party shop if you really wanted to, but it's actually knowing how to put the wig on, how to tell your friends and family, how to navigate work, how to navigate, washing it, looking after it, going on holidays with it. That's the main issue, and that's the main niche that nobody was tapping into. And I think for me, I faced the problem, so I knew how to deal with it. And I am somebody who, like, I don't take orders very well. Like I sort of like teach myself a lot of things. So I think when you teach yourself a lot of things, you kind of figure out where the problems are and how to fix them.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided to do the workshop, and it was more so to create a community of people who could all learn from each other as well, because people come to the workshop that have been losing their hair maybe like 25 years. You know, they know all the crack, and they know the products, and they know who to go to, and hairdressers and stuff like that. So it is a lot about community as well as learning, which I love the combination of that. And the people that I meet on a daily basis, like you talk about inspiration, they are insane.
But that's a big thing. You've just put your finger on it there, that community and building that community. But not only just building it, but being really genuinely part of something like that. Because you have turned your story into a business, albeit not by design. You know, you're finding that purpose. It is now a business, that real, you know, product platform community. When did it shift from being sharing my life online, this is my experience, to I'm really building something here? Was there a moment where you realised that there was possibility here?
I think I just continuously had people messaging me, asking me, you know, where do I get this? How do I do this? How do I look after my wig? How am I going to do this? And there was a lot of people that I would meet in person, you know, at like even on nights out, you know, at birthdays, christenings, random people saying, you know, oh, could you help my sister? Could you help my friend? And I thought, if I could just create, I suppose, like a day where everybody could come together, and like I could just basically word vomit everything that I know about wigs and then they could take it and run with it, then that would be great. We did the first one, and it was something that I was sitting on for a long time. But when I say a long time, for me, that's probably like 6 weeks. Like I am not really somebody who doubts an idea. I'll just run with it, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I just decided to go for it. It went really well. And I think the main thing that I did was I booked my second one before my first one happened. So I didn't give myself a chance to, you know, when you do something for the first time and you always go, oh my God, that was shit.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, or like, oh, I didn't do well enough, or I didn't, I could have been better. Obviously, you could have been better. You're never going to be great the first time. So I booked the second one. So I had no choice but to do it. So whenever the second one came around, I was so ready to do, like, I was like, right, that didn't work the first time. This is going to be better. And the second one was great. So we've done, I think, 22 now. So we've done 3 in England. We've done 1 in the south, and then whatever the rest of that number is here. So
Okay.
it's been crazy. There's been a lot of people in through the doors, and a lot of people. We've had some people who've passed away. We've had some really sad experiences, because a lot of the people, I think the main thing is people see it and they're like, this is so class and this is so lovely. It's a really vulnerable state for people to be in.
Yeah, massively so.
I meet people who are maybe just wearing wigs for fun. You also meet people who are nearing the end of their life, and they just want confidence, and they want to live comfortably, and they want to be able to deal with that in dignity, and I totally get it. And for me, there's a big range of people that come. There's a range of ages, and there's a range of emotions that you have to deal with as
Everybody has a reason.
Yeah.
And in a way, you could have run these workshops online. And you being a digital native, that would have been the easiest thing in the world for you to do.
Yeah.
But you faced that emotion of that room and that very varied emotion of the room head on.
Yeah.
Was that a deliberate decision?
Yes. It was quite a tactical decision. I think when you have hair loss, it's very easy to hide. And the minute that you stop hiding, life becomes easier. So whether, I think online, and I hate online courses. I hate it with a passion. And I know there are life, and
You can't beat real life.
You cannot beat like connection and speaking to people. And I just think online, whether it's your camera or whatever, you're never truly yourself, because you're like staring at yourself. So you can't be yourself when you're staring at you.
And also you can do it again.
Yeah.
When you're in real life, it's like we're having this conversation. I know we're in a studio, like, but it feels like none of this is here because there's a connection. We're talking to each other. Yeah.
Connection is like the soul of life. I'm just obsessed with it. And I just think especially with hair loss, with wigs, a lot of people that come, I feel like you have to see it to believe it, and the magic is there, and you have to see the room of people wearing wigs to go, oh my God, I'm not alone. I think especially when you're doing an online course, you still feel like you're on your own because you're on your own.
Yeah.
So when you're sat beside somebody who's also wearing a wig, that's like insane.
But also, I think it goes back to your sense of purpose, and that you must be purpose driven to walk into that room and to feel something.
Yep.
That's that connection that you're craving and going after. And the thing that I see about your story that lands so hard as well, especially in a room full of women who are maybe building their own businesses, is that, you know, you didn't build the platform by playing it safe. It goes back to that idea of, you just said, let's go, give it a go. What's the worst can happen? But in a way, you put the one thing that you were most afraid of, you know, being seen on camera, right at the front and centre of everything you were doing. Have you ever thought about where that courage came from to do that?
Um, Not really. I think if you start thinking about where it comes from and it goes, you know, I think you just have to. Courage isn't about being confident. It's not about feeling safe. It's about feeling scared and doing it anyway. You know, it's about thinking this is so scary, but I just have to do it because if I don't do it, someone
Yeah.
else will. Or if I don't do it, I'll never feel like if you don't accept yourself, no one else will. And I think if you're scared of what that's going to look like, then everyone else is scared for you too.
That's very true. But also courage, sometimes when we think about being courageous, it's the big things.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a big leap and it has to be dramatic. But courage can be the small things that you're doing on a day when you're not really feeling it and maybe you are feeling extremely vulnerable. And then maybe being consistent
Yep.
when nobody else is watching as
Mhm.
well. The things that you don't announce to the world that you've done today. Which do you find the harder?
Like I could speak in front of a room of like 1,000 people and not even blink an eye, but like see going into like a car wash, like I'm shaking. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't like it's really small. It's probably the small things that freak me out more. Like I could show anything, I could talk about anything in front of 1,000,000 people, and it wouldn't even bother me. But like going into a shop where there's only one other person, I'm like, oh god,
Is it the small talk?
I don't know.
Are you a bit socially awkward?
Maybe. Maybe it is that. I don't know. Like I think that like when you talk about courage as well, like you could look at someone and be like, oh my God, they're so courageous, but they could just be like, well, I'm just living my life.
Yeah.
You know, like courage looks different to everybody and confidence looks different to everybody. Like I could look at you and I think like what you do is unreal. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just to you, it's just like daily life. Like you're so used to
Mm-hmm.
being yourself and talking and you can talk to anybody. And for a lot of people, that's massive. So I
Yeah.
just think it looks different to every single person.
So that brings me to She Ventures then,
Mm-hmm.
because you're in a room of over 200 people and each person has that story, that exact story where we're looking at each other thinking,
Yeah.
you're amazing, she's amazing. Oh my gosh, do you know what he did last year? That's unbelievable. And you never think that they might just for 2 seconds think that about you because
Mm-hmm.
you're so busy and you're so obsessed looking around you at the experiences of everyone else.
Yeah.
2 years ago when you went to Lusty Beg, like I imagine you were dragged there by the scruff of the neck by your auntie Mary McKenna and your mummy Patricia McVeigh. That's probably part of it, Olivia.
Yeah.
But what were you expecting on the island?
I remember going into that just thinking like, why am I here? Like, why am I here? I have nothing to add to anybody. Like, everyone's going to be just looking at me thinking like, what is this girl going to be telling us that we don't already know? And maybe that's the truth. And I think that a lot of the time when I go into, there's times where I'm speaking on a panel and there's panels of like MBEs and unbelievable like CEOs of massive companies. And then I'm stuck there in the middle and I'm like, hey, like I'm like the personality hire. But I think it's the thing that I have to keep telling myself is like, you're still in the room,
Mm.
you know, you're still there. And it doesn't matter if you think that you're like an imposter or not. You're still there. So you have to make the best of what you've got.
You have to give yourself those wee pep talks
Yeah,
sometimes, don't you?
you really do.
But I suppose in the last 2 years as well, we have seen, you had a huge following on social media 2 years ago. You still do. But something has happened in the digital world in the last 2 years where it has really ignited.
Mhm.
And the doubters have come on board and realised this is what we need to do. Dare I say, there might have been a wee bit of a snobbery maybe
Mhm.
towards digital creators, people who put themselves out there on social media previous to that.
Yep.
Now you see the most I just be very surprised at some of the faces I see on socials these days going, all right, you're putting yourself
Yeah,
out there
yeah.
now. I did not expect that, did not see that coming.
Yep.
And it's interesting to watch that. Do you feel that there's a bit of validation has come over the last couple of years?
Yes and no. I think some people are starting to get it, and I think some people are just being forced to get it because it's just the way it's
Mm,
going. Like people
aye.
don't watch TV anymore. You
Mhm.
know, this is the likes of creators and brands coming on board of using creators and even just using social media in general in a more laid back way is the way that marketing's going. And even for like massive companies, like the companies that I've worked with in the last year are companies that you wouldn't expect somebody like me to be working with, but it makes sense because that's who they're trying to target. Um,
What does that
Recently,
mean? That companies you wouldn't expect somebody like me to be working with?
like I did it was a great partnership. I did the like reporting on the Balmoral show for Specsavers.
Yeah.
That's just so random for me, like but it was a great partnership because it worked so well. And I did something. I've been doing a campaign recently with Danske Bank trader. Sorry, AB. But it's just such a, I suppose, a random connection, but it really worked well, you know, to do it in, and brands are coming forward now to let you do work in your own voice and doing it the way that you would normally do it, instead of coming and saying, we want you to do all these terms and conditions and all these guidelines and make it look like the way we want it to look. Instead of going to somebody who's a creator and saying, we love what you do, your audience knows who you are, so do it like what you normally do. And that's what the way it works.
So you've got agency over the type of work you're doing and almost how you're doing the work as well. You couldn't see that coming 2 years ago.
No, definitely not.
And how is that aspect of your work growing and that aspect of your business growing? Has that been by design? Have you gone out to seeking out these partnerships, or has your business evolved very naturally?
I think it did evolve naturally, and then it's got to a point where I'd say about a year ago, I decided to be a lot more like intentional with what I did and intentional with who I worked with and what I was doing and the content that I was doing, because I really wanted it to just feel like me and not feel like something that I wouldn't normally do. So the likes of like the Specsavers partnership, I was kind of like, well, what is the angle of it? When it was the Balmoral show, I was like, that's perfect, because I'm just a big culture and that would be great. You know, it works. So it's working with brands that I already work with, but in a way that suits my voice. You know, so you're never being, I just love authenticity, and I love seeing people thrive in a way that suits them.
It's interesting because before we started recording here today, you were talking about exactly that, about your voice, and that sometimes people don't understand you because you are a culture and you're from Tyrone, but that's the very thing that people love about you.
That's the thing. And like with working with bigger brands, it's a lot of feedback that I've had of people being like, look, we can't understand you. And I'm like, that is not my problem.
What do you want me to do about it?
Rip my voice box out and put it on the floor. Like, there's nothing I can do. And I went to do public speaking lessons because I was like, right, I need to get this voice under control.
All right, Eliza Doolittle, how now, Brian Cow?
Here's me, public speaking. And the guy I was doing it with was amazing. He was like, you're great at public speaking. What's the problem? And I was like, I don't know. You tell me the problem, because no one can understand me. And he was like, it's your accent, it's thick, but you just don't hear it. Like, we just don't hear thick accents. And then a lot of my followers are like American. A lot of them are from like the Middle East and stuff. So they're probably listening to me being like, the hair's great. Haven't a clue what she's saying, but the hair's fab.
But you know, I think you found the voice, and there's definitely a place for it, Olivia, and it's part of your USP as well, you would have to say at this point. And I'm sure, you know, going back to the idea of a lot of women founders making that decision for their business, that they have to put themselves out there. And that's happening more and more. We're seeing that more and more. When you as a face, as a person, come front and centre of the brand benefits from that and will be much more successful. But I'm sure there might be a lot of founders thinking, I have a story too. There's a great story in my business, but I'm not sure how to tell it. What do you say to that? Should they be breaking down? How should they go about it?
I think marketing comes down to storytelling, and that's like what the foundation is. We as people love a story. You know, is there anything better when your friend says to you, oh my God, wait till you hear this? And you're like, I am buckled in, locked in, tell me it all. You know, and I think especially from a founder perspective, people love the behind the scenes. They love to see like how you've got to where you are and what is the challenges. And you know, we love a roller coaster story. And I think sometimes it's easier to say to your friends, what is interesting about me? You know, what should I be saying? And your friends and family are always able to tell you what the story is quicker than you're able to. Because I think a lot of the time when we go through our own things, we just think, oh, it's not that exciting, or it's just whatever.
Other people see it differently.
Yeah. So I think it's really important to ask your friends and family what you should be talking about, and also trying to take yourself out of it. You know, it's going to benefit your business if you talk about it. So do it.
Just get on with it. Don't even think about it.
Yeah.
And book the second session is what Olivia will be telling you to do as well.
Yeah.
So She Ventures is returning.
Yes.
This is the second summit ever. We're all heading back to the island on that wee rickety ferry.
Love it.
Did you dare drive over? Were you a passenger?
I was a passenger, and then I did a wedding 2 weeks ago, and I went on the ferry, and it was an experience. Thought the car was going to get rode off. Brilliant. Unbelievable times.
It's just those couple of seconds of rolling onto the ferry, you're thinking, I'm going to die.
I know. And your man in the cab was like, ah! I was like, oh my God. Me and him's going to be we're like Jack and Rose here in this boat. Didn't know what was going to happen to us.
So look, your life did go on. We're going over to we're going over to the island again for the second time, and the group, some people will be there who were there the last time. There'll be a lot of new faces and new energy there as well, but you're going to see it through different eyes this time. How are you approaching She Ventures this time?
I'm excited to meet everybody, and I think it's just a great time. I always think to myself, in whatever room you're going into, you never know who you're going to meet.
Yeah.
And the amount of things that a lot of opportunities that I have had have been from the likes of She Ventures or different events where you've met people and then something's come out of it. I just think you never know who you're talking to. You never know who you're sitting next to. So ask questions.
Okay, so that's your advice to the first timers, just ask questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't be talking about yourself the whole time.
No.
Yeah. Ask the questions.
Yeah.
And I suppose if somebody's on the fence about going, what would you say to them?
Go. What are you doing? Why have you not already bought your tickets? Get on the ferry.
And then last question, I could talk to you all day. Given, and we're not really going to give you time to prepare for this one, but
Oh, God.
what are you most afraid of right now? And then you're just going to do it anyway.
Oh, what am I most afraid of? I would always say failure. I'm always afraid of failure, but if you don't try, you're going to fail anyway. So I always give it a go. And sure, if you fail, you fail. Nobody cares about you anyway, so you have to just tear on.
And there we go. That is the winning
motivation for the day.
The
Nobody
winning
cares about you.
The winning attitude, exactly. It's like one of those wee powerful thoughts we should get. Yeah, definitely. Olivia McVeigh, thanks a million, and see you on the island.
See you there.
So we are going to spend the rest of today's podcast talking about partnerships, why they're important, and what is possible when a good partnership or relationship is encouraged and fostered. And patron partner, well, that's an elevated partnership and relationship. It's more than a sponsor. It means that you've showed up before the proof of concept and that you kept showing up. And AIB are our patron partners, and that relationship has shaped this community and I suppose shaped what this community can do and dream about doing as well. This year, AIB are on board as patron partner and sponsor of AwakenHub, and that includes She Ventures. Elaine Downey is head of SME Banking in AIB, joining me now from Dublin. Hello, Elaine. How are you?
Hi, Lynette. How are you?
Great.
Delighted to be here.
Thanks very much for making time to join us and to talk about becoming a patron partner, because it is so much more than writing a check, isn't it? You know, you're making a statement. And I wondered, what is that statement from your perspective?
Yeah, well, look, we're delighted to be involved as a patron partner this year. And I suppose the statement that AIB has made really is that it matters. We saw the opportunity early on. It's very aligned with our own strategy. And as you said, it's more than just, putting a logo on some posters or sponsorship. It's deeper than that. And I suppose it's recognizing the stronger, more inclusive economy across the island of Ireland that Awaken Hub can help with and support. That we wanted to be part of that, and we wanted to back that journey from the start. And as you said, it probably wasn't clear to us that it would absolutely be a success at the beginning, but we wanted to be on that journey.
So then what made you say yes to Awaken Hub before the numbers were obvious, before the numbers were crunched or, any data had emerged?
Yeah, I suppose there was probably a couple of things. We saw a gap, in terms of women in the economy, having the confidence to put themselves forward. Well, they'd made their decision to be in business, but it's just to make those connections, to put themselves forward and being, scaling and creating networks. So that was one thing. I suppose the other thing was really around our faith in the founders of Awaken Hub from the very beginning. The credentials of the people. We saw something in them that sort of made us go, well, look, this could work. So we had, I suppose, took a leap of faith, but at the same time, we had confidence in their track record. And the other piece, as I said, it's very, very aligned to our own strategy. For a long number of years, AIB has supported and tried to do our bit in terms of nurturing women in business and entrepreneurship. And we felt, I suppose, very aligned to that strategy and the, I suppose, shared values and shared ambitions that Awaken Hub and AIB have.
So let's talk about women-led enterprise and entrepreneurship on the island of Ireland. What do you believe about that the data is really only showing up now?
It was more than just an inclusion piece. And I think sometimes it can be associated with just, about diversity and inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
But we feel it's more than that. There's actually an opportunity here. Women set up different types of businesses often, and, it makes society much more rich, but also there's such an opportunity to grow and make the SME economy and the wider economy healthier through the participation of women. And we wanted to be part of that, and we believe in that. And I suppose that's what we saw. And the data is beginning to show that now, where it's being researched and monitored.
And what results do you want out of this? You've said it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for the women in business. It's also an opportunity for AIB. So what
Yeah.
is the opportunity for AIB specifically? What do you want to get out of this partnership?
Well, look, I think a healthy economy is critically important for the success of the country, for the whole island, and for AIB being a major part of that. So if we can help scale and help women-led businesses be more successful, helping them to be more confident in their own ambition and bringing forward, I suppose, the ambition, realizing the ambition that they have. And also putting them in contact with networks that are going to help them through their funding, whether we're a part of that or whether others are a part of that. We want to help that. And that's how it's really closely aligned. And there's lots of different funding types. We provide an element of that. But really it depends on the type of business, the stage they're at, the risk of that business, whether, so I think there's lots of room for different elements of funding within the marketplace, and we want to be part of that, and also to help our customers and female-led businesses to access that. If they're successful, the economy is successful, we're successful, and I think that's where we're coming from.
Yeah, the good old domino effect there when
Yeah.
collaboration sparks. And
It's sort of that, all boats rise type of
yeah, they
scenario.
do,
Yeah.
absolutely, with the rising tide. And you clearly have a consistent women's entrepreneurship strategy. Your AIB backs Network Ireland, Women in Business, and the Awaken Hub. But
Mm,
I did want to know specifically about Awaken Hub and Awaken Angels. Where do they sit within that for you, and within that consistent
mm,
backing of entrepreneurship?
yeah. Well, I suppose the Waken Hub, it's community based. It's all Ireland, and that is really important for us because we're a very community. We're deep in all the communities across the island, so that's really important to us. And I touched on the fact that it's beyond just finance. We recognise, I suppose, the importance for business owners. They need to get funding, but they also need the additional supports for them personally, because it can be a lonely place being a leader of any company or a founder. So providing that additional support that's not just funding related, and I suppose that's where Awaken Hub comes into. Then Awaken Angels is another part of the story. I suppose it's really interesting because again it's very complementary. We love to found or support founders in terms of finance, but it's not always appropriate. Our type of finance isn't always appropriate depending on the stage of the company, what our risk appetite is at a particular time. So we recognize that there's other types of funding out there. And I think Awaken Angels provides that. But what's really exciting about it is that it's also women backed. And, that was the first that we were aware of, certainly. And we just think that's really exciting. And it's going to be more, it's obviously going to be more in tune to what women need. And, so helping with that. And I think that's really, really important.
And I suppose in terms of Awaken Angels as well, it is empowering for both the women founders and also the angels, as these
Yeah,
women are trained up to become angels and to become angel investors, which possibly was something they might never have dreamt of being.
exactly. And it's really something, I suppose, fresh and innovative that, we hadn't tapped into before. So we were
Mm,
very excited about that aspect of it.
yeah.
And look, I suppose in terms of Awaken Angels as well, going back to it, it is that, scaling the businesses. And I suppose that's where, we can offer other supports much broader than the finance piece. If customers are trading internationally, either importing raw materials or exporting their end product or service. That's something that we can help in with as well, in terms of foreign exchange, in terms of payments, just help in that regard. And then tuning in and tapping into our whole network, as you said, Network Ireland. We're very involved with Enterprise Ireland as well, and other groups, SPCI, and other groups. So like helping, I suppose, the founders network with all of that ecosystem is really important too.
Yeah, because there is a gap between women
Yeah.
building businesses, women accessing that type of investment. And that's where Awaken Angels is trying to close that gap from the investor side. And I suppose that does align with what AIB is trying to do from the banking side of things.
Well, I think it's really complementary. We have a number of different lending products that we offer depending on the circumstances and the needs, and that, I suppose, range of products and services is growing significantly. And it's sort of changing in dynamics. So, for instance, asset finance is something that customers are sort of being more attracted to, rather than maybe traditional term lending. In certain stages, they need overdrafts or working capital. So there's lots of different types of products, we'll say, that banks offer. But like there's about, in the Republic, there's about 33 different credit institutions offering lending. I think, sometimes we don't realize there's such a variety. And we also partner with government bodies to help distribute capital and lending opportunities through, that are government backed, through our branch networks. So it's very complementary. We have a range. We're also conscious that we don't really go into the VC or angel type investment, and that's why partnering with Awaken Angels is really important, because we don't want to step back from the conversation. We actually want to be part of it and help our customers and female-led businesses to access that broad range. So, if we can supply or help with the need, great. If not, there's somebody else in our whole ecosystem and network that we can maybe put them in contact with.
Yeah, it's about facilitating that growth and the support network as well, which
Yeah.
is really, really important and crucial to supporting female founders and female-led entrepreneurship. But beyond She Ventures, and I know you're going to Lusty Beg for the first time,
Yeah,
Elaine.
yeah.
We'll talk about that in a minute and what you're expecting from the island. But what parts of the Awaken Hub calendar, because it's a very, very busy calendar with trade missions, there's the Angel Programme I've already mentioned, the All Island community events. But what parts of that calendar feel most relevant to what AIB wants to be doing with
Yeah.
women founders and investors over the next 24 months?
I suppose starting with the community calendar, because or the community events, because that's very much aligned to, we're part of the community, and we're across all of Ireland, the whole island. So it's really important that, I suppose, we're tapping into making those communities across the island really innovative and growing in their development. So I think that connection is really aligned to where we're at. I think the trade missions are also really important, because as I said, we want businesses to scale. That's really important. And if they can grow, sometimes if they just stay within the island, it'll stunt their growth. So they've opportunities to grow. And some businesses are, more suited to that than others. But if we can help in any way at all in that space, with that's also where we're aligned to. And then, as I said, the Waken Angels is very complementary rather than a core part of what we do, but very aligned.
Yeah, there's a lovely portfolio of partnerships, of things, of events and projects that are presented by the Awaken Hub and the Awaken Angels, and you can see the synergy there, in a very natural synergy. So Elaine, back to She Ventures, the
Yes.
Courage edition, heading to Fermanagh to Lusty Beg Island now from the 7th to the 9th of June. You're going for this is your first time to She Ventures?
Yes, I am, and I'm really looking forward to it. Look, I think the energy. I've just looked at some videos on LinkedIn, and it just looks it looks amazing, to be honest. I'm really looking forward to it. The energy, I think it just speaks for itself. And, I think what I'm looking forward to is really sort of listening, hearing what women founders are looking for, what they need, maybe some of the difficulties they're having, some ways that we can help. And then just, there'll be a lot of other speakers and networkers there as well. So just, I suppose, experiencing it, to be honest. I'm sure that I'll get as much as I put into it, but really looking forward to it.
Well, we can't wait to see you there. Can you sing, Elaine, or do you sing?
I cannot sing, no.
Well, we might have to test that out on the island. I'm reliably informed that there's going to be some very dodgy karaoke going on as well.
Oh, very good.
So,
well,
yeah.
I'll definitely be at the back of the class for that one.
You might never know, Elaine. We might find you right up at the front. That remains to be seen. Thank you very much for joining us today on the Back in Her podcast. Thank you, Elaine Downey, Head of SME Banking at AIB. We'll see you on the island. Thank you.
Lovely. See you then, Lynette. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
This is Backing Her, the podcast that profiles the women doing the building and the people who back them. And we're going to talk about support partners now, specifically Intertrade Ireland. And Meg McGill is the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Project Manager. And we have from Ulster Bank, John Ferris is with us, one of Northern Ireland's most recognised faces in entrepreneurship and enterprise. John has backed, built and championed founders across the island for many years and is the driving force behind Ulster Bank's Accelerator programme. So hello to both of you. Thanks for joining us and coming into the studio. I wanted to start with yourself, Meg, first, and Intertrade Ireland. And I understand that the opportunity on the opportunity in the island is bigger than the work, and also that when North and South work together, magic can happen. So just tell me a bit about that belief and that purpose from Intertrade Ireland's perspective.
Yeah, so that would be, Intertrade Ireland's remit is all island. It's something we've done for 25 years. It's our bread and butter. Our whole thing is driving cross-border trade, innovation, collaboration. So whenever the opportunity came to sponsor She Ventures and to work with AwakenHub, who we have engaged with on a number of programs and initiatives, it was just a natural fit. We are working with the Shared Island Enterprise Scheme at the moment. So Intertrade Ireland are leading on a series of women entrepreneurship programs in partnership with Enterprise Ireland and Invest Northern Ireland. And we're currently working with AwakenHub delivering their WeScale programme. So yeah, this is very much a natural place for us to work in and to support businesses across the island.
Why do you think it is that cross-border collaboration is one of the most underused tools that women founders have?
It's one of those things that's so simple, but for some reason no one really thinks that you can just go a couple miles down the road and there's a whole other network. It's quite literally just a different network.
Yeah.
That for some reason people don't realise they can tap into really easily. We're not doing anything, I think, overly complicated. It's just opening doors, doing different introductions, connections. Very much our top priority is collaboration. For us, we would see ourselves not as a support organisation, but as a connector. Quite simply, it's just introductions. And I think once you realise that the world is bigger than just your doorstep and it's all there for you, why wouldn't you step outside the door?
I think that's it though. Being an entrepreneur and being a founder, it's a very can be a very lonely place. And sometimes you just don't know where the information is. And that's why conversations like this, networks are so important, where someone can just give you that wee nudge and say, did you know about, you've got this, did you see this, you're entitled to that, or you should be applying for that, or this funding's coming out next week and it works right up your street. And I suppose you have a unique perspective on all of this as well, Meg, because you're a founder yourself.
Yeah, we discussed this before we started filming. I'm still really uncomfortable with the title of founder because I'm really, really early stage, but the only reason I run a program for families to swap family items, so I'm trying to grow it into a company as a bit of a side hustle. And probably I would say the only reason I'm doing it is because I don't have entrepreneurial family members. I don't come from family business, and I started working in the ecosystem around 4 or 5 years ago, and quite simply from being around so many women founders every single day for my job, just suddenly you kind of go, why not me? Like, why don't I just try this? It's kind of like what Olivia said when you were chatting to her. Just do it and don't put too much pressure on yourselves. And that's quite literally how I've approached it, is I just
do something, see how it goes, and then keep doing something. And that's what I'm following so
And
far.
fair to say, but for the experience and exposure of this world, or
Yeah.
exposure to this world, that's not something you ever would have
Never
thought you could do.
I would bet my life on it. I would not be doing this if I did not work at Dentistry Ireland and have the exposure to all the people I have at the moment. They're all role models. The women I work with, I support them through my job, but equally I'm inspired by them, and I think that's kind of the beauty of women's entrepreneurship. Yes, it's such a cliche to say, you see it, so believe it, or what's the
Yeah,
saying?
can't see, can be.
Yeah, but for me that really is the case. That's exactly what's happening. And I'm at the very, very early stages. Also partly wanted just to experience what it was like, to be honest. And it's not easy. I have a lot of empathy now because I'm partially going through it myself on the weekends, trying to balance life and everything. But it's a lovely world to be in.
Ultimately helping you with the day job as well.
Definitely. Yeah,
absolutely. And the problems you can solve.
Yeah.
And the real purpose-led help that you can give people. So John Ferris is beside you. John, how are you?
I'm great. Delighted to be here. I always struggle with those titles, and I think many founders do struggle with that because they really, you are putting pressure on yourself by calling yourself this thing that sounds really like you should be the global empire CEO of something by calling yourself a founder. So I think sometimes it comes back to what works for you and what makes you feel comfortable in calling yourself whatever
Even
that is.
sometimes though, whenever you're trying to establish something and you're not completely sure what it is yet, and you're still asking yourself all those questions, trying to come up with a title, that simple question when someone asks you, so what is your business? That just strikes fear into your heart because you can't answer it.
I've attended so many pitch training workshops where I have been explaining how to pitch to entrepreneurs, and they have to, they tell them to nail their 30-second pitch. When someone asks you what you do, you should have that line down. I have been pitching that at people for 4 years, and then as soon as I start doing my own thing,
so hard.
If you ask me now to say what I do, I'll fumble it because I just haven't worked out how to say it in 30 seconds.
Well, I'll not put you on the spot
Please
then,
don't.
Meg. I'll not do that. But by the time you arrive with us in Lusty Beg for She Ventures, I expect that to be finessed. John, yourself and AwakenHub, you kind of go hand in hand because you've been on board from the very outset, from the beginning. What were you buying into when you were pitched? And I'm sure it was a very specific 30-second pitch that you got, John, from AwakenHub. But why did you want to support it?
I still have the very direct email from Mary McKenna. So yes, it was a very straight pitch.
Framed?
Yeah, well, I should get it framed. I think it's like early stage businesses. When AwakenHub and the concept and the idea came around, a lot of that is like an early stage business. You're backing the founder. You'll figure it out. It might not be in 2 years' time what you think it is today, but you've got the ability to figure that out. And having been in the entrepreneurial ecosystem for about 13 years now, I had been really flummoxed by the fact that why were female founders not getting the support they needed when they return more for a VC fund, for example. Those things didn't make sense to me. And so from the very start, I was going, what can we do as a bank and an organisation, and what can I do personally to help change that? And when Mary reached out to me to have a conversation, just happened to be the right time that we'd got some funding when our then CEO, Alison Rose, had done the Rose Report for the UK government on female entrepreneurship. So we managed to just get some money. And genuinely for me, knowing Mary and known Mary for quite a long time at that point, and many of the rest of the team that I knew bits and pieces and I've got to know a lot better since then, it was really just buying into the ability to know that they were fixing a massive problem or attempting to be part of the solution to that. And I just had 1000% faith in every single person involved in the AwakenHub that they'd be the group of people who'd figure out how to do as much as they could to do that. And so it was an easy thing to back.
And having been on board with it since the very outset, here we are a number of years later, 6 years later, since July 2020 when AwakenHub came into being. How have you seen the work and the network evolve?
Yes, I think it's been really interesting to see. Back then, there wasn't a huge amount of support for female founders. There's so many amazing programs today, which is great. And I'm starting to see other challenges from women that are now talking about, I'm scaling and I'm in a room and I'm not really in a room with other founders that look like me and understand the journey I'm going through personally, which is where you would hope to be, is like more and more women in those scaling positions that aren't just starting out but have moved on a little bit. So in some ways that's a nice thing to see. In other ways it's still ludicrous that it's 2% of funding now that goes to female founders. Still,
Yeah.
As a if you were going for a job interview and someone asked you to present, right, so this group of people return a lot more for your fund than this group. Which one are you going for? This one? You're not getting the job. So those things still sort of boggle my mind. But so we still have a long way to go. But I do genuinely believe that organisations like Awaken, who are doing it for the reason of not how do we make money from this, but how do we actually impact and allow female founders to grow and scale and grow with each other and form little communities themselves who will help each other in the next 5, 10, 15 years to grow and support those new founders coming through to create the role models of tomorrow. And I remember talking to Christine Boyle. Me and Christine both come from West Belfast, and talking to her 10 years ago about there aren't really any role models back then from an entrepreneurship perspective of where we were. And I remember challenging Christine to go, like, you need to be that person in 10 years time. So I think all of that stuff we're getting there, but I'd love to see that going a lot faster, but that's not from the trying on Awaken side. That's,
Yeah, but I think even the idea of what an entrepreneur is, what it looks like, has really changed, and I think that's a whole other conversation that we'll have at another time on the podcast. But I did want to mention, John, today very briefly that you are in the Awaken Hub community. You're what is referred to as a big sister.
I am, yeah. I was the first male big sister. There's a few of us now, thankfully, so it's not just me.
Can you tell me about that role?
It's really what it is like, how do we help and support female founders, and that can be anything. Meg touched on this earlier about introductions, and I think we sometimes kind of do pass that off as just an introduction. One introduction can make such a massive impact and difference for someone that you don't even realise how. That may not be a massive contract. It may just be someone who's talked to you who really gets the thing you're going through and helps you get through that. So I think like being a big sister is about like being a big sister, is like being there. Sometimes it's to champion people, sometimes it's to give them a bit of advice, sometimes it's to help them out, all of those things. And I think that's really important, that it's not, I know Awaken Hub is very fond of talking about it's not a female founder thing only and it's only women and that's it. It takes everyone to kind of to be involved, and it's everyone's, I'm sort of half looking forward to being on a manel and half not looking forward to being on a manel. But it is our responsibility as men who are involved in this to also be involved and actually not shy away from the tough conversations, and to be in rooms and shouting and helping affect that change as well. So I think all of that is really part of what we need to be doing. Yeah,
yourself and a few other male members of the Awaken Hub community have very decently agreed to join the manel, which will be on Sunday night, to kind of warm everybody up as we're finishing the barbecue, so that I think that's Have I Got Views for You, John? I'd say you'll have no shortage of views for us.
I'm really regretting being drunk at She Ventures 1 and actually suggesting that would be a good idea for the next one. So,
yeah, I'm going to get on to what you have planned for She Ventures 2 in a second. But Meg, I just wanted to get back to the female founders, the female-led entrepreneurship and enterprise. What is the conversation you're hearing from women founders now in 2026 that maybe didn't exist 3 years ago?
I think 3 years ago, as John kind of said, there just really wasn't much. It was maybe starting. The conversations maybe shifted a bit, where there's actually quite a lot going on the island of Ireland for women entrepreneurs. It's actually knowing what's best for you. So I think it's not every program, even though it's for women's entrepreneurship, not every program is right for your stage of business. So I think the conversation is, what do I need to be doing now? And I think that's why things that happen, like events outside of programs like She Ventures, are so important for us and so important for Industry in Ireland to support, because those are the events where founders will meet and talk to each other and kind of go, what are you doing and what have you availed of and how have you done this? And that's how they will progress, is by sharing their journeys with each other and hopefully what's worked for them, what maybe hasn't worked. I also think we're seeing a lot more, maybe a few years ago it was tough to get started, to even tell women that you could have ideas, that you could even start businesses. And now, we launched our women's entrepreneurship programs, a series of them, including WeScale, at the end of the year in 2025, and we have been inundated with applications. Like, there is no shortage of ideas from women on the island. It's actually the gap we are seeing now and that we are trying to fix, I suppose, is it's the growth sort of like what John said. It's not starting up anymore. It's actually how do you scale, how do you sustain yourself, how do you then grow and raise investment. It's this next stage is where we really need to wrap around our our founders. There's no point in us supporting them to start and then going, all right, off you go, good luck.
Yeah, well, it comes to that point where you put all the balls in the air as a founder, and then they start coming down to bounce, and as they bounce, you realise I would need to clone myself. What do I do? I'm now swimming in work, and I'm exactly where I wanted to be, but it's getting a bit much, and then you realise I need support right now.
Yeah, and that's sort of like what our WeSkill program very much supports in that area, but that's the point of a network. I fully believe a network should be stepping in at that point. So you're saying the best introductions I've ever received is when someone when I didn't have to ask for them. It's when someone just had I don't know what the word is, just the thought to go, oh, Meg would really benefit from this person, and they just do it.
Yeah.
And they just open that door without even knowing that I needed it. And that's what we try to do for entrepreneurs too, is just to sort of preempt the need, I suppose.
Yeah.
But because a lot of entrepreneurs don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
It's up to us to sort of try and figure that out for them.
I think that's the beauty of something like She Ventures, where you end up having a conversation with someone and then you get a feel for them, you get to know them, know their business, know their personality, what they would welcome, what they wouldn't, and whether or not they'd gel with someone. And people take on people and open doors for each other when they know that you're the right person to be dealing with for, to solve this particular problem. And you say about, finding the way and finding the perfect atmosphere to make introductions. Well, Meg, can I tell you how John's going to be doing that on the island?
Please.
John, I hear that there's going to be karaoke in one of the breakout cabins. So, we'll be in the Willow Room up in the main Lusty Beg complex, and we'll be listening to all these amazing people and their experiences, what they've learned, their challenges through business, how they've scaled, what they've learned over the years. And then we break out. And people are going to be, I think, banging the door down in John's cabin to go because you're going to have karaoke. What's going on, John?
I'm not really sure. I'm going with the concept that we're talking about. Like our cabin is about founder burnout and about how tough it is to run a business, and actually to that point of like taking a step back to go, what is the thing that brings you joy in life?
So karaoke is the antidote.
And well, it may or may not have been some karaoke at She Ventures 1 quite late in the evening one night that I may or may not have been involved in. And I think we sometimes in the middle of doing all of this, you touched on this earlier, Meg, you're so ingrained in the focus on getting the business moving and getting to the next stage, you kind of forget that most people start this for a reason, and it's to not be tied down to a job, to do this thing that you get to spend more time doing the things that you love and all of that. And I think sometimes we forget to have a little bit of fun along the way. And so I think that next week our cabin is going to be quite intensive, because one of the sessions I'll come to in a second is very, very intense. So I wanted to make sure that some of the other stuff was a wee bit more light in terms of us actually having a bit of time to step back from our phones and actually just enjoy a bit of time being around other people, as we move into an AI world where, human connection is very, very important. And so, I'm looking forward to that. And if I may, Lynette, if I go back to tell a personal story about She Ventures 1, 6 months before She Ventures 1, I'd went through a diagnosis process of ADHD with my daughter and myself, and I'd started writing about it online. And I, to Olivia's point earlier, I kind of felt like I wasn't sure if anyone really cared or anyone needed to hear what I was saying online. And I remember at She Ventures 1, I think the first night someone came over that I don't think I'd met before and said and told me a personal story about one of the articles that I'd written, and I kind of broke down and cried a little bit on the island because it was a huge moment for me, and that I'd set that up both because I'd been through quite a journey myself. And I also thought if I write about it, hopefully it will help and impact some other people. And at that point, I kind of was just putting it out into the void and wasn't really sure if anyone was hearing it or getting any value from it. So I think sitting there that night and hearing someone tell me a very personal story about their family really touched me. And so one of the things I had kind of said back then is if I did get the opportunity to come back to She Ventures the next time it happened, was that I would really do something on ADHD, because I think there's a huge piece on the on the ADHD side for founders that is very focused on the money side of things, and that can be a challenge for people with ADHD who are very impulsive sometimes in their purchases. So like one of the other sections will be a wee bit intense in talking about like that side of things. So I kind of really wanted to make sure that that also became a bit of a party cabin around that, and so a bit of very serious and
Yeah.
challenging things to talk about, but also we can always have a little bit of fun around stuff
But
at the
that's
same time.
that's the beauty of an event like this, where I think you can go from light to shade, you know, in the same breath, and that's the way it should be, John. To be honest, there's that bit of shoulders down. Let's have these conversations in an environment where it feels very comfortable to do so, and I think that that's going to help an awful lot of people. Maybe seek clarity on something maybe that has been working away in the back of their head, maybe for quite some time. We could talk all day because there's so much to talk about. But thanks very much to both of you for coming in and joining us on Backing Her. Thank you very much to Meg McGill and also to John Ferris for joining us today. And that's it then from Backing Her for this week. She Ventures runs from the 7th to the 9th of June. If you're listening to this on the way to Lusty Beg, well, hopefully we've got you all worked up now particularly for the ferry right across to get to the island. And if you're sitting wondering why you're not going, there are a few tickets left. If you haven't got your ticket yet, why not? I hope you can join us. If you're on the fence, this is your sign. The partners in this episode aren't just supporting an event, they're supporting the belief that the island of Ireland has the founders, the investors, and the ambition to punch well above its weight on a global stage. And we're about to prove them all right. So I'm Lynette Fay. You've been listening to the Back in Her podcast, powered by our patron partners, AIB, backing the long game on this island, one founder at a time. And we'll see you on the island.